the one and only Princess Zelda, Patricia Summersett. And following right behind her, we have good sir. He was in Apex Legends, Naruto, you know him as Deidara, Bleach, Resident Evil, but more importantly, because it's his birthday, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Nice hat. Well done.
Nice to see you.
Roger and Patricia, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Sorry for being late.
No, you guys are good. How can Sonic be late, though? I mean,
That's true. I know.
how did that...
Sonic
He was battling Dr.
Egg.
Egghead.
Nice. Hey,
Oh,
first
boy.
and foremost, thank you guys for giving us the time. We have a great audience here. These are your people. Hey, one more time, let's give it up.
Oh, my
A
gosh.
big warm welcome for Patricia Summersett, Roger Craig Smith.
Thank you. These are easily the nicest chairs I've ever sat in at any
Hey.
convention ever.
Check this out. Turn around and take the headset off. It's magnetic.
What?
It's magnetic. The
I don't know why they're
yeah,
so, like-
that's dope.
Wow. I need one.
magic.
I need one of these.
Yeah, but I got that metal plate in my head, so it
This is dangerous, though,
I
because
gotta be
literally
careful.
it's just, yeah, all of a sudden, like, no, but just the relaxation kind of thing. It's like, no, it's great to be here. Sorry. What was the question?
So, first and foremost, yeah, thank you for being here. We wanted to kick it off just by asking the both of you, just give us a little bit of background about your experience in the industry, how you got started into it, some of the highlights, anything you want to talk. Yeah, go ahead. We have all the time. We have all the time in the world.
I'll start on, and then you can wax on really
Oh,
for
yes.
a really long time.
Not that I ramble.
I'm just getting better.
Ever.
Hi guys, so lovely to see you here in Philly, or Phoenixville. Is that where we actually are?
Yes.
Phoenixville.
We still call it Philly.
It's Philly.
We still call it Philly.
Okay, cool. So I actually got started in the industry as a theater artist, and before that I was an ice dancer. So they kind of were back to back. I was doing competitive ice dancing. It led me to doing theater, and then I sort of I was training for voice acting at the same time in theater school, and I found out that I absolutely loved it right away as soon as I took a class in voice acting where you could transform your character just by a voice, and I was like, wow, I've got to make this a part of my career. So in my early 20s, I started pursuing that, made my demos, and that led to my first indie games, and those indie games led to AAA games, and I've been doing it since. And I guess in terms of like highlights, obviously Zelda is one of those really wonderful highlights. I also have a lot of...
Sorry. I was saying, you know,
We're not worthy. Calm down.
it's a,
Calm
it's a very
down.
dated reference now.
It's true. It's like, we're not worthy? Is that like...
Yeah, it's like...
like Wayne's World? What is
I
that?
remember back in 1991.
Was it 1991?
I don't. When was
World?
Wayne's World? Probably the 90s, right?
Wayne's World.
It had to be the 90s,
Party
yeah.
Times? Yeah.
Do you all
91?
remember the
Thank you.
90s? Sorry.
Totally lost my train of thought.
No, you were saying
no.
that you were saying obviously highlights of your career would be Zelda, and then I did this and it threw you off.
And I was like, I was
Yeah.
not in Wayne's World,
And
but
Cross-mogination,
some
yeah,
Canadians
right.
were. It's
Another
true.
reference.
I have to ask
Yeah.
a weird question before we go to Roger.
Weird question, yeah.
What is ice dancing? I don't know what that is.
Oh, sorry. Yes, ice dancing. I'm like, just gonna throw.
Oh, we're gonna
it
get a
in there, like-
performance.
So violent.
Ice dancing is a kind of figure skating that you do with a partner. It's sort of like, it's a kind of figure skating where you do something like ballroom on ice, as
Okay,
opposed
okay.
to pairs where you have people that tend to have like a bit of a height and weight difference and they throw each other into the air. So ice dancing is really more like the dance and the patterns that you see on the ice, and some twizzles and things like that. But that's probably always done with a partner.
That is
what's
awesome.
a
I learned
twizzle?
something today.
Yeah,
never
I'm
heard of it
happy to help.
Cool.
Well, I have a question. What's a twizzle? You did say like it's twizzles and things like that, and I'm like, we're just gonna let that one go?
I'm not going to demonstrate right now, but I guess a twizzle here. Twizzles like this.
Do you need a partner for this? Oh my goodness! Wow, you're quite the Twizzler.
You were waiting for that.
That was sweet.
It's
That was
awful.
terrible,
It's awful.
Ramon.
And that would be a single twizzle, and then you do doubles, triples, quadruples, all those sorts of things. It's a general ice dancing move and often done with a pair. You have to try to do it in perfect synchronization, which makes it more complicated. And then you have inside edge ones and outside edge ones. So in lengthy, short, that's a twizzle.
Yeah, but
That's awesome.
something as rather named so silly, twizzle, has a lot of complication.
It does.
I wouldn't have
yeah.
thought. Inside twizzle, outside.
Anything with two
quadruple
Z's
twizzle.
probably has complication. I
Yeah,
don't
true.
know.
There you go. Sorry.
Nice.
I
No,
shouldn't
that's
be allowed
really
to
cool. Thank
yeah,
you.
I shouldn't be
Yeah,
invited to
pleasure.
these things. I shouldn't be invited to these things. I know better.
All right, Roger, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So we all have such varying sort of backgrounds and starts. I was a little bit of a theater kid. I was like trying to do musical youth artist repertory theater when I was like middle school age. And I was a ham and a goofball all through high school, that kind of thing.
Really?
Yes, I know. Shock of all shocks. Got involved in like theater arts in high school, that kind of thing. Got out of high school, was going to be a rock star, was going to be anything and everything, and didn't go to college and all that like right off the bat, and just kind of bounced around trying to find out life. And then eventually found stand-up comedy and started pursuing that while then also going back to college. At the age of 27, I graduated. I was on a good path. But while in college, I started kind of just messing around with stand-up comedy, and the more I did that, the more there were people that were in the business that were asking, "So, hey, you do a lot of characters and voices in your act. Who represents you?" And I'd be like, "For what?" And they're like, "For voiceover," and I'm like, "Nobody," you know.
Wow.
They're like, "No, you should look into that." And I was hearing that more often than I was like, "Hey, you're such a great stand-up comic. Where are you performing again?" It was not that. It was more like, "Hey, you ever thought about doing something else?" Like, just kept hearing that over and over again. And honestly, the catalyst for me was we were trying out for the Aspen Comedy Festival. There were 10 of us that were selected to perform at the Improv, and we did this whole thing. And the woman that was there to evaluate us, as she goes down the line and critiques all of us in front of our colleagues. So it's kind of nerve-wracking because the audience leaves, and then we go back up on stage, and she's like, why are you doing prop comedy? You're not a prop comic. She's going to all these people giving them advice on their comedy, and she got to me, and she goes, "Who represents you for voiceover?" And I went, "Nobody." And she goes, "You should really look into that." And that's all she said. It's like, nothing about like, "Great job tonight, you're really funny," nothing. And I was like, okay, that's the industry telling me. And so I Googled voiceover, and this is back when we were still sending CDs as a demo file, not MP3s or websites or that kind of thing. And just started kind of like learning, called some agencies, that kind of thing. And then sort of, my gosh, you start off in an entrepreneur kind of approach where you're recording outgoing messages for on hold things, training videos, anything. If somebody will pay me to read something out loud, I'll do it. And that really was how it started. And it was just kind of doing that, and then kind of building. I grew up in Orange County, California, so I was kind of doing it on a local level there. And then finally, like, more experience. And then I just thought, well, I started introducing myself to people up in the LA market, which is a much bigger market. And then it just was, eventually got a meeting with Abrams Artists for representation. They met with me. A week later, I got a phone call. They said, "You're on." And then it was just, we audition every day. It's still auditioning. But that really was it. It was just sort of, and a highlight for me would be planes. In 2013, I was a Disney kid, like just loved Disney as a little boy. Loved airplanes as a little boy, and it was like all of a sudden getting to be a bad guy in a Disney film and having it be about airplanes was like, oh, yeah, one of the highlights for sure.
That's cool.
Great.
That and being here,
Woo!
you guys make me want to twizzle. No.
Twizzle.
There you go. That was more like an extra sizzle than a twizzle. Right? Just, all right.
So it's kind of funny because both of you said something that seems common. You gave a response that we always get when we ask people about like how they got into voice acting. And we heard the same thing not too long ago with the Metal Gear Solid panel, is that when you ask people like, "Hey, how did you get into this?" Is it like you just said one day, "Hey, I want to be a voice actor. I really want to get into this and actively pursue it"? No. More often than not, it seems like it's almost by happenstance. It's totally accidental. Like you find that like you can parlay an existing talent into getting into it. Do you find that that's still the case within the industry, or do you think more people now are saying, "Hey, like I want to be a voice actor"? It's so legitimate now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's completely changed because back when we were starting, that you just didn't know what that was. We didn't have the same kind of networking possibilities that you do now. And now voice acting is actually seen as a legitimate potential career path. And people ask us all the time, really. They say, how do you get into voiceover? That was something I wouldn't have had the knowledge to even think about asking at a certain age. And there are a lot of possibilities to get into voiceover now that didn't exist before. There are ways to create demos and do things on your own time. You have all sorts of technology that you can use. It's a really interesting time to get into voiceover, but I don't think you don't sort of fall into it happenstance anymore. There's enough sort of knowledge around it. That's my opinion, but maybe you have a different one. I don't know.
I mean, my best advice is just be a really bad stand-up comic, and they will ask you to go be a voice actor. Apparently, that's how that. So good luck, everybody. No, I mean it's an interesting time because, like I said, we were doing CD-ROMs, CDs that you would put your demo files on that, and you would go drop that off at a studio. And now everything is done through the internet, and I just don't know how. Like I can't even imagine what it's like to try to break in because we're working remote. I moved from LA to Boise, Idaho, and I'm working full time from Boise, Idaho. And it's like the idea that can happen now. I recorded this morning from my hotel room for a client with a tiny little rig that I bring with me for these reasons that will go to air, for promos. And it's like that kind of the thought of that having been possible even like 5 years ago, it seems like it was like, oh boy, you don't do that. And so now the idea that so many more people have access to this as a potential thing to pursue, yes, maybe it's more saturated, but it's also going to be that much more competitive. And maybe it forces everybody to kind of get better, I suppose. But we've also got more resources available. So it's very, very complicated. When people ask, like, how do you get started? I'm always like, I can tell you what I did. You're never going to have my career, and I'm never going to have yours. It's always going to be this, like, you will find a way. If you really want to do anything in life, you just sort of find a way. It's my drama teacher from high school said the path is never linear. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Because like I said, I was doing musical theater, and then it was like I was going to be a drummer, and then I was going to be a writer, and I was going to be all these different things, and eventually it was just kind of like, nah.
Now you're a hedgehog.
Now I'm a hedgehog who just extra sizzled live on stage. Yes. Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah.
I will ask. So, quick question. I know, Patricia, the last time we talked, you mentioned your band, Summersett band.
Oh yes, I do have a band. Yeah.
I was wondering because I know, Roger, you just said that you were going to be a rock star.
Oh, yes.
Is there any chance that you also had a band?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Who's the dumbest? What was the name of the band? Something. Oh my gosh, Walnut Grove. Literally was the name of the band, Walnut Grove, because that's where the singer grew up, or the bass player, or something like that. And it was, and then it became The Naturals. Really catchy, right? Like you guys are, well, yeah, I was in a band for a brief period of time, and we opened up for Paula Cole at the Coach House in
Does anybody know who
Capistrano.
Paula Cole is in this
Where
room?
have all the cowboys gone?
That's actually kind of an old school reference.
There you
but
go.
she's big
I know.
now.
Exactly. There you go. Thank you. Where have all the cowboys gone?
Oh, wait,
There we go. So,
wow,
yeah,
I just that happened right by me. That's great.
No, Patricia's legit. She's in a band. I was a really bad stand-up and a really bad drummer, and now I'm a talking blue hedgehog. So that's all you got to do.
But you do use, with voiceover, you do end up using bits of drumming, bits of stand-up, bits of like how to analyze a script. You also have a screenwriting degree, so you use all these things when you do voiceover very much to be able to offer a lot of different skills in a room. And so regardless of whether or not your path ends up being linear when you're pursuing this sort of career, it does any sort of life experience you have with any kind of genre of thing that you're passionate about tends to find its way into your voice acting somehow and into your characters, I find. But
This is really awkward. If you guys will indulge me on this right now. I have to tell you, Patricia, you have a bit of a reputation in the business.
I do have a reputation in the business.
The twizzling during the voiceover sessions is not working. Here's why. Because the microphone only picks up when you're facing it. So when you, it just doesn't, link behind me. It just doesn't, I don't want to be the one to break it to you, especially in public, but you got to stop twizzling.
You just did break it to me in public.
Yeah.
You could have told
Sorry,
me. Sorry.
this is awkward.
I can't imagine you were a bad stand-up. I can't imagine that.
No,
I
I
don't
was.
see you
Well,
being a bad
apparently I was.
stand-up.
He's not
Apparently I
even
was-
standing up right now. Whatever.
No.
Oh,
Well, actually, I am.
That's it. You have to be a sit-down
That's
comic,
true.
not a stand-up.
That's true. That's true. Although that 5'5", that maybe I am standing for all we know. Could be.
So when you encounter somebody that has absolutely no idea who you are, maybe, and you introduce yourself for the first time, and they say, "Hey, what is it that you do for a living?" How do you describe what it is you do to the layman?
Oh boy. I'll let you. Yeah, if you want to take that.
Oh,
It's like-
I thought you were about to go up and make a big show of this. I was like, yeah,
No.
I want to see what you have to say. We're going to stand up and do a couple twizzles, and
No.
that's what I do. I just twizzle. When
think
somebody asks me, I just
pulled
spin
something
around.
attempting my twizzle.
I actually have this funny answer because I act. I also do TV, film, and everything. But saying that you're an actor always gives you the question coming back at you, which is like, oh yeah, what are you in? What have I seen you in? Sometimes your favorite things to say are like a piece of theater that you've never heard of before, or something like that. So I actually say voice actor. Actually, you know what? Most of the time when I meet people for the first time, I don't tell them what I do because I'm like, not going there. I say I work in the arts or I'm an artist. And that usually doesn't lead to another question. But I maybe tend to be a little private when I'm meeting new people a lot of the time. I guess these days that's what I do. Kind of just ask them what they do.
Nice.
It's tricky because literally most people, my favorite question or my favorite response if you do bother to say, oh, I'm a voice actor, I do voices in like video games and cartoons and things like that. The next response is almost always, oh, anything I would have heard of? And you want to go, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you want. And the best if it's somebody like in their 70s and I'm like, yeah, you play a lot of Sonic video games, or it's like you just want to go, I don't know what you're watching, And so you get this response, and you'll say like, "Oh yeah, I was in this," and they go, "Oh." You go, "Oh, well, maybe this," and they go, "Oh," and then you say like one more thing that they've not heard of, and then then the question is like, "So how do you make a living?" It's just like, this is what I do.
That's pointy.
But I haven't heard of you, so you couldn't possibly be good. It's kind of a funny little thing. Yeah. It depends on the age range, of people.
I've actually, now that I've thought about it, I've had a funny experience in this vein where I'm talking to somebody and say, oh yeah, I work in video games, and I've left it blank. And I've had a couple of people in my life in the last couple of years go, what do you do, Zelda? Because it's the only character they'd ever heard of. And they were like, Zelda? Like, because I'm a female, and that's it. And I'm like,
And it's like, well, actually.
yeah, actually, yeah. That's right. But
That's kind of cool, though.
It's kind of weird. Yeah.
It's a weird thing to explain to somebody. Like, I spend my days in a padded room screaming alone for money, and to not have them kind of go, great, I'm going to go sit over there now. From here on out, I'm just going to twizzle when they ask me questions.
Just twizzle.
What do you do for a living?
See, now I want to know the difference between a twizzle and a pirouette.
Oh, pirouettes are not an ice dancing. They could be kind of the same thing, but the twizzle would be the ice dance version.
Okay.
Good question.
Cool. Thanks.
Interesting.
I'm done here, guys.
Has
Hey,
anyone
This is my panel now.
that was really good at twizzling? Was it a thing in like ice dancing that like fans would throw Twizzlers onto the ice? Like, that is a Twizzler. And then like hockey, hat trick, we throw hats. In ice dancing, if you're a good Twizzler,
Or squid. You just throw a
a
squid.
squid, dead squids, rats, like during the Stanley Cups, yeah.
Yeah. No.
Okay, we're gonna start it from here on out. You ever see anybody ice dancing and they're a good Twizzler? Just start hucking licorice onto the ice
So that
and
they
tell them it was
don't
because of
trip
TooManyGames.
all
Yeah.
over themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Roses, right?
Flowers.
Flowers,
With
yes.
flowers.
Oh.
I'm gonna throw
So I do
Twizzlers.
have a question. You guys have such extensive filmography roles. Is there a favorite role that you've played?
Oh, I find this one really, really hard. Do you have an answer for that? I will answer. I'll think about it. It changes every time I get asked that question because I don't know.
My pat answer is always, and it sounds cheesy, but it's always the next one. Very, very lucky
Yeah.
to work in an industry where I honestly think that in animation, interactive, that it's just some of the most creative people in the entire entertainment industry. And I'm always amazed. Like every now and then you see a lot of stuff that you're kind of like, okay, this is okay. I see the genre that they're going for, that kind of thing. But every now and then something kind of comes across your plate for an audition that you just go, that is so unique and so original and so creative and provocative or whatever it might be. So the idea that we've gotten to do the characters that we've already gotten to do is just incredible. It's like
cool.
lightning has struck so many times, but the idea that there's still more to be done out there, for me, it's like, my favorite one is the next one, because it also means I'm still working, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you're lucky enough to be working, it's awesome, honestly. Yeah. I would say one of the highlights I've had, though, actually reprising Zelda for Tears of the Kingdom for a third game was like so great, and it felt like such a relief to be able to come back into a character that I love so much. That is definitely a highlight. I'd say another one is actually a film project that I did recently, but TV, and it was a series called Three Pines, and I did a few episodes of that, but I got to share some scenes with Alfred Molina, and that is so cool. It's like Doc Ock, but playing a detective, and I was like, ugh. So yeah, things like that just come up. They come up and they happen, and so it's not necessarily an entirety of a project, but moments in each project that I can kind of glance onto and think about. Yeah,
That's great. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have another?
No, you're good.
We have so many questions. We're gonna. I wanted to ask, because you kind of already touched on like some of the better sides, some of the positive aspects of doing the work that you do. What are some of the things that are maybe like less, attractive, a little nuisance? Like, what are some of the downsides?
we don't talk about those.
We don't. We don't.
Thoughts? Do you want to like?
Screaming, yelling,
Yeah.
just
Vocal
vocally
fatigue.
stressful work.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. It's an interesting thing. You'll see like advertisements for people who can teach you to scream theatrically, which is great if you're a theater actor and producing that kind of a portrayal, if you will, and having to do it 8 nights a week, or 8 nights a week, 8 times a week, if not more. But usually for interactive or video games. For that, they expect that you're going to deliver a realistic scream, and the only way you can scream realistically is to scream. And when you scream, you damage your voice. And when you damage your voice as a voice actor, you can't work often for days. And sometimes it can be it's an issue within the union at times, that kind of thing. So we're trying to figure it out as a industry, and even then you're kind of like, well, I'm still getting paid to be in a video game and scream and be a part of this stuff. So it's not like you don't want to. It's not like you want to phone it in. You want to be delivering good work, but you also know, like, a little part of you is like, oh, this is gonna just. And I'm not getting any younger. So every time I scream now, it's like a little harder for me to recover. Like back in the day, you could take a weekend and like kind of recover the voice. But boy, it gets harder and harder, with that now. So that's a downside, I guess. But honestly, every day behind a VO mic is just it's a good time. It's a fun job. But yeah, the screaming, the vocally stressful stuff can get to you.
I would add on to that and say that probably auditioning, which can also be vocally stressful, especially depending on what kind of breakdowns you get. Sometimes there isn't a lot of regulation all the time on what kinds of auditions you may be getting, what may be the specs of the audition and what you're required to do for each one. But if you're auditioning for like 10 projects in a day, you're going to be so tired by the end of it. And there's also a lot of repetition in that, and you're constantly having to find new and innovative things to do with your auditions to even make them worth submitting, because for some auditions that you may do, you might be submitting with 1,000 other people, and they may be shortlisting that to 15 people. How do you even get to the second round of a shortlist? So you can't phone it in, and to do that all the time, it can be a lot. So that is a part of the, it's a challenge of the job. I mean, so much of acting is auditioning. That's it.
And it's a daunting thing to consider too, that it's 2 different processes. You can see what they're looking for, and like auditioning, ooh, it's the magnet. It's the magnet. It's the steel plate. The idea that you're going to try to do what you need to do to win the audition versus what you're going to then do for the role can sometimes be very like different things. So it's you all right? Was it the Twizzlers?
No, sorry. Pardon. I was.
No. It's kind of like touching on what you were saying. Yeah, auditioning can be very, very challenging, because you're thinking they're going to get as many as 350 of these things that are all going to sound the same way, because they've asked we're looking for a female voice between the ages of 25 and 45, someone who's accessible and girl next door, and it's like no regional accents and all these different things. And you start going, that's anybody and everybody, like all day. They're going to listen to and if it's LA, New York, Chicago, Dallas, and it's 25 different agencies in every city. It's 500 people are auditioning for this, you know, and it's always something funny where it's just like, a la carte only. Like that's the line, and you're like, really? This is what we're all competing for? So the idea that you're going to try to like perk the ears of somebody for an audition versus what you're going to wind up doing in the actual job is like two
Right.
different things. And we'll spend hours on these auditions and not hear anything, or you know, it's yeah. So
A lot of rejection.
Boo-hoo. Oh, did you have to audition a lot? You poor thing.
Okay, so I think my next question would be, do you guys play video games at all? Like, was this something that you were just diving into, getting, you know, stepping your toe in, saying, do I like this?
I love the way that you asked that question. It was so like charming and nice. So we probably have different answers for this very much. I've definitely played video games. I'm not an avid gamer these days. I'm splitting my time between the acting, the writing, the music. And if I try to get too far into a video game, like if I tried to play Tears of the Kingdom, I might be like off the grid for months and not working. So I have to be careful with that, but I do like them when I do play. I really like indie games when I get my hands on indie games.
Nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, indie games. What was the rest of that question? It was like, do you?
Oh, I think that was
pretty
gist.
much.
Yeah, that was the gist of the
That's pretty
question.
much it. But I've always pursued video game acting because I've always found that awesome. Like from the moment I found it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be part of these processes. And I think there's something about knowing how many people a video game can actually reach in one game, how immersive it is. And so the opportunities for storytelling within in that are so great. They're so awesome. And it's also, I've done a lot of, I was really interested in Shakespeare and studying those classical forms, but I was always asking while studying those things, what is the new form? What is the form that stretches right now in this day and age that is the most alive? And I kept on coming back to video games and thinking, this is where the innovation is happening. And so if the innovation is happening here, the acting and the kinds of things that you can stretch are happening here within this forum. And I love that idea. So that's never been a question for me. I've always been pursuing games as soon as I could. Yeah. Bugging
cool.
game companies and, you know.
Roger, you touched on some. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something?
No.
You looked like you had a thought.
No.
Okay. You had touched on something earlier about the audition process and how you sort of like get into the mindset and things like this. How is it that you prep for a brand new role? Do you have to do like the whole like Daniel Day-Lewis, to be the hedgehog is to understand the hedgehog?
Oh, yes.
There's a whole like
Nice job.
Or do
Nice
you?
job.
No,
Yes.
no, it's not. It's horrible. I should not have done that. I should not have done that. But I mean, do you have to do like? Is there character research? Is there sort of like a trial process there that you go through for yourself?
It all depends on, I think every project, it depends on what they give us. Sometimes they give you next to nothing. And so it's like, or they give you literally unactable stuff where it's like, you know, his favorite color is green. And you're like, okay, what do I do with that? Like, you know, like you're going to hear it in my voice. You know, it's like, it all depends on the project and how much they give you and whether or not you're going to get anything from that or do something with it. And sometimes you just kind of go, I don't know. I'm thinking it's going to be this, and I'm going to take a stab at it, and I want to do something. Very often, I'm also trying to not get bored of my own approach to things. So sometimes it's like, well, what could I try? I haven't really worked in this register for an entire 4-hour session. Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could try this character. And maybe it's totally wrong, but maybe I'm learning something about myself in the process that I could do this now, or that kind of thing. Sometimes it's just a shot in the dark. You just are kind of going, I don't know. I hopefully this is I'm gonna throw it against the wall. Maybe it sticks. I don't know. It can be a very frustrating experience for that regard. So yeah, sometimes you're really, or it's something like I said, the next one, you know, it's something that's just so unique that you're like, ooh, I'm gonna sit with this for a couple of days. I'm gonna work on this, listen, submit something, listen back, you know, and go, ooh, that's not, you know, I'm not interested in that, or I don't like what I'm doing with this, and go back and redo it and that kind of thing. It all depends on the project and what they've given you. Sometimes they're so specific that it's almost frustrating because they're so specific that you're like, well, now everybody's going to do this one thing. And even then, sometimes I'll just go, well, they're going to get 350 versions of everybody going like, you know, a la carte only. So I'll go, a la carte only. You know, like throw something at them, you know, they go, who was that guy? Bring him in. You know, it's like, who knows, right? Win the audition, lose the war. I don't know. It's, it all just depends. I mean, on and every project seems to be kind of different in that way. But I don't go Daniel Day-Lewis. Oh, you know, I do. Although, maybe we got to take Sonic the Hedgehog that direction, you know. Yes.
A grizzled
Physician
Sonic.
Eggman, it is over. Sorry. Wait, no, it would be a Frontier sound would be like, Physician Eggman, it's over. And then annoying sound, Physician Eggman, it's over. Sorry. It's not gonna work. Got to go expeditiously quickly now. Gotta go fast. Anyway, all right, we're losing the audience. Sorry. Again, bad stand-up. This is what I did. I'm very familiar with all this. Lots of awkward pauses after I land a punchline. I'm like, okay, there's 6 more minutes to go. Okay, great.
All right, so I think Luna had one more question. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the mic. I'm going to be going around the audience. I know all of you have some questions. So the way we're going to do this is very orderly. Just raise your hand if you have a good question. Please, if you can. We don't have a whole lot of time left, so just keep your questions very succinct, very to the point. All right, and I'm going to go mosey. I'll be back.
You mean twizzle?
I will do my best.
Twizzle.
He's trying. There we go.
Oh.
That's right.
Oh.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh.
Beautiful. 6, 6, 6, 6.
Oh. Okay. That hurt.
So
That
we're gonna have
hurt.
a dance
I felt that one.
competition after this panel. You have to
Ow.
dance battle, civic minded. But I do have one last question.
That
like
was
Tim
impressive.
said. And I think my question would be, what is your? We talked about the downsides. What is your favorite part of voice acting?
Ooh. There are a lot of them. Why don't you go first on that? What's your favorite part of voice acting?
All the laughter. See, again, it's not there. I mean, like, look, we're getting to live our dreams in so many ways. It's like, it literally is. It's like,
Yeah.
there's nothing more exciting than all of a sudden you do this thing. It really, we very rarely know what we're a part of. We rarely get to see it. We are often working with sometimes just lines, no context. And there are so many people, like, you watch the credits at the end of a movie, thousands of people that work on these films. And it's like, the video game world, the animation world is the same thing. It's like we come into this process very early, sort of, by comparison to others. And it's neat to, like, pick up the game, load it up, play it, and realize what the collective sort of collaborative, element was meant to be, what everybody's sort of idea of what they wanted to execute on, from visually to music to sound effects to all that kind of stuff, where it all kind of blends together, and then you get to also go, that's my voice. And it never gets old. It's a fun part. You're just kind of like, or 9 times out of 10, if you're like me, you're like, why did they choose that take? Oh, God, I had a way better one than that. It's not what is that what I sound like? That's what I sound like. Oh, no. So, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just really generally, I think it's an opportunity to act and to transform, and you get to do it with your voice. And there's a lot of control over it that you don't have on TV and film, where so much of it is sort of dependent on your appearance and whether the screen reads you to look a certain way that fits that character mold. There's a lot more imagination in audio files. Like, it's just there really are. You're sort of limited to your technique a lot of times. So that's really cool. I love that about it.
Thank you.
All right, so we have our first question right down here in front. Here we go.
Hey guys, I know you mentioned, the question was asked if you guys had played video games earlier. I wanted to ask if, for both Patricia and Roger, if you guys have played any Sonic or Zelda games, and if so, which ones are your favorite?
Awesome. Well, I've definitely played the original, and forever in my mind that might be like stand out because I was like a tiny child when I did it. Ocarina of Time I really like. I mean, it's an amazing game, and I've played about 40 hours of Breath of the Wild. While I was doing that, I was also starting to, be Princess Zelda in events, and I was inundated by Hyrule, and I was like, whoa. So that's okay. Like, that's enough for me for now. But I have Tears of the Kingdom on my shelf. It's sitting there waiting to be opened. But yeah, I'd say like Ocarina of Time or Breath of the Wild and the original are my favorite Zelda games. Sonic, I haven't played Sonic at all. Never. I've never actually played a Sonic game.
It's cool. It's cool. Cool. Next question.
All right, next question.
No, yes, I've played. And I go back old school. Just give me the original Sonic. I have yet to play Frontiers. Really enjoyed getting to be a part of Colors and Generations. Those two were fun. But yeah, no, I have yet to play Frontiers. So, but I have about 260 hours into Breath of the Wild. So. and it's one of my favorites.
What?
Yeah. Next question.
Oh,
Yeah, right.
okay. This might be a little bit of a long question, but a lot of actors try and get into the role of the character that they are to like help create the best version that they can. Do you guys do anything similar for the characters that you voice? Do you like go into research for certain characters or spend time practicing for the voices that you do? And if there has there ever been an outtake or a version of the voice that you had that was so different from the character that actually got into the game?
Yeah. Yes. That's the short answer. Depending on what you're given on a page, personally, there are some things that you cannot plan for, and it's probably best that you don't overthink and you just give it a bold choice. But in terms of characters that have a bit more fleshed out storyline, if you can research, it's great. And of course, if there are accents involved, you definitely have to research, always. And actually, there's a great, if anybody who's an aspiring voice actor, there's a great website called IDEA, International Dialect of English Archives. You can find authentic accents from pretty much all over Europe and North America, I believe.
A lot of different.
A lot of different places. And I think they've expanded it since then, where they get people from each place to sit down and read text and take an interview. And I'll take references like that because you're asked very quickly, like, can you do something that sounds a bit Scandinavian, or can you do something that sounds British, or a little bit of something that is like a mix of different things, and you have to kind of come up with something and be very specific about it. And you can't just do that. You have to actually have some accuracy to it, historical accuracy and all that. So again, depending on what the role requires. And me with an acting background in theater, I do tend to try to do some research very much when given the opportunity, but you're not always given that opportunity. So yeah, case by case.
I try to take it equally as seriously, and I literally wound up like 6 days in the hospital for trying to survive off chili dogs alone to get into character, and I don't do that anymore. So now I just try to be more like Daniel Day-Lewis and be the talking blue hedgehog. No, again, everything that Patricia said, it just depends on project to project. Obviously, I don't spend a lot of time going, I am a talking blue hedgehog, I am a talking blue hedgehog, I'm a talking blue hedgehog. It's tough. It all depends. And I tend to do a lot more kind of broad and big over the top kind of things. So it's just easy to kind of ham it up, I guess. Sorry.
If I'm playing a younger character, for example, physically, I'll probably stand in a specific way. I'll take my center of energy and I'll put it higher in my body, so it's like hanging out up here, and I'll visualize things a little differently, and you shoot the sound out of a different place. So it's a very physical process, taking on these different characters, especially if it's something that has to sound realistic, natural, and is not like you. Those are subtle adjustments, but they have to be really precise. So it does require some sort of like physical trying different things. Have you ended up like a character that sounds nothing like what you ended up auditioning for? I feel like that happens all the time, but yeah.
There's nothing funny. Like I say, you go and you win the audition, and then you get there and you're like, or you practice. I've had that happen where like you literally work with a dialect coach to get an accent just nailed down, and then you walk in for the session and you're like, okay, I've been working on my Russian. And I'm like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And you're like, what? Yeah. They're like, yeah, it's going to be like, South Kentucky. And you're like, what? Like, guys, I need to know this, So yeah, it happens. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
All right, another question right here.
Hello.
Hello, Audrey.
Audrey.
Right? Yes?
Yes.
I remember your name. Yeah. Okay.
So I was wondering what your favorite voice acting memory is.
Good question.
I voiced a Twizzlers ad today, just now.
I got lots of them, but one I'm thinking about right now is shouting "I am a Smurf" in Old Montreal, with Hank Azaria sitting there and people going, "Okay, on action," and it was like live action, and I had to be like Smurfette on set for Smurfs 2, and it was like these watered down, glistening streets, and it's like 2 a.m. and we're all doing night takes, and my job was to be like, "I am a Smurf," over and over again, and I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I? Anyway, it was also magical and very strange. that's what I think about right now.
I actually was with her that night, and there was no movie. It was just her having an episode, just running through the streets of Montreal, yelling something about being a Smurf.
That's
it
why
was
I
really
always
sad.
wear blue, because I just can't
yeah.
get over that time. So
Because you are a Smurf.
yeah, I was
Yes,
a Smurf.
she was a Smurf for one night. Mine was just working on planes. Disney's planes was just a really great memory for me.
That's
All
cool.
right. Next question.
I have a question for Roger Craig Smith.
My full name, thank you.
Okay.
Just to clarify, in case there was anyone else named Roger up here.
Okay.
There are.
Yes.
I know this may sound crazy, but are you looking forward for Sonic Superstars?
I got to be careful to answer that. What is Sonic Superstars? Has that been announced also, or is that It has.
Yes,
Or are you just baiting me into something? And am I like hashtag? Man, the weather here in Philly is lovely, you guys.
So sunny.
Yeah.
So always sunny.
It's always
right?
sunny here, apparently. Yeah. Well done. You should be a comedian. You literally got a bigger laugh than anything I've done here tonight. So, like, twizzle, here it comes. There it is. Oh wait, now
Share a twizzle.
could we do it in tandem as dancing? Are you going right or left? Like,
Try.
stuck the landing.
Achievement unlocked.
Yes, I'm excited for that thing that I may or may not be confirming or denying, that I may or may not be involved in, or not at all. Yes, maybe. Thank you, sunny Philadelphia.
You got it.
Yes.
All right, here's one more.
So this one's specifically for Roger. One of my favorite memories. just
Craig
here-
Smith.
Yeah, Craig.
Okay,
Smith.
okay, so me.
Just to clarify.
Gotcha, thank you. Okay, I want to make sure.
One of my favorite memories is me and my friends were rewatching regular show recently, and just
Ooh.
hearing your voice everywhere. Do you know how many voice roles behind the voice actors says that you've done in regular show?
They claim I've done over 178 or something like, right?
It was like I lost count at like 200.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Here's what I will say
You
about that.
counted them. I'm
I
impressed.
literally like it was long.
It was like 12.
It was a lot.
It's like they're like, why is this Roger S. like person submitting that Roger did 178 characters? That I will say in my defense, and that's a lot of incidental characters, and that's 7 seasons that I got to work on regular show. So it's neat to amass that kind of like that many characters. But let's be honest, it's like eventually a lot of them are going to kind of start to sound similar, because it's like taco vendor number 4 and policeman number 2 and skater punk A, or guy in bar is gonna like eventually it'll be JG just kind of going, just do like your surfer guy, and I'd be like, okay. But no, regular show was such a blast. I mean that was you want to talk about dream come true moment for me. I walk into a session late. It was very early on in my working with them. I walked in, my call time was an hour later. There's a gentleman sitting down front that is telling stories of old Hollywood, and I was like, that guy looks familiar. I wonder who that person is. And I just walked in quietly, got behind my microphone, the engineer sets me up, and we're rolling. And this guy's asking questions of everybody in the room, and then he turns around and he goes, Roger, what do you think? And he turns around and he lowers his glasses, and I'm looking at Luke Skywalker's eyes. And all of a sudden I went, oh crap, that's Mark Hamill. And I was like, it's like, be cool. And I'm like a 7-year-old boy going to see Return of the Jedi with my buddy Anthony, who lived at the bottom of my street. And I'm like, yeah, life is going exactly as I thought it would. I'm now with Luke Skywalker doing cartoon voices, and to have somebody like Mark Hamill call you Roger, and you just go, hi, Mark. Hey, Raj, how you been? Good, Mark. like things are great, Mark. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah, they threw so many things at me, but a lot of it was kind of similar sounding things, but also a lot of fun on that show. Way too much fun. Oh!
Now, I'm guessing you might have a Zelda question, and I guess right? Okay.
I'll answer this.
Love it. Love it.
For Roger Craig Smith.
I am probably gonna cry, so I need to keep calm.
Don't worry. I'll cry with you.
No,
It's all method.
then I'll feel bad. My question is, I'll keep it short. What do you think Zelda would be like as a child?
Oh.
That's a great question.
And there was a little, did you say thanks, Ellie?
No, little Zelly.
The little Zelly. They're so cute. I feel like she'd be all the characters have some element of themselves of when they are a child. And I always go back to that in some way. I think she would be, depending on whether or not she had her mom around, really. it's hard to tell when and where that happened. I don't know. So 6 years and 3 months. So do you mean before or after 6 years and 3 months when she was a child? After? Ooh, well, if she was after, I'd imagine she'd have grown up a little fast. But when she wasn't feeling that deficit, she probably is extremely playful and very inquisitive and very curious and very much somebody who played outside a lot when possible. That's what I would say. Pleasure.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, another question right here.
Hello, I have a question for Patricia.
Hi.
Hi. My question is, since I have played every Zelda game, I was wondering, what do you think your voice would be like for the other Princess Zeldas, like Twilight Princess Zelda or Wind Waker Princess Zelda?
Oh my gosh. You know what's funny? Nobody's ever actually in 6 years asked me that question. It's amazing. I have a feeling I'd probably do something fairly similar, just like slight offshoots of what I already do, because to me, the Zelda is the Zelda. I'd probably keep it in the same strand, in the same way that people have asked me, like, between Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, and Tears of the Kingdom, how has that evolved for you? And I'm like, well, they're all sort of Breath of the Wild Zelda, because that's where she began. And as much as the character design changes, I don't know, I'd have to feel it out, because I'd have to be presented with that opportunity and have a script in front of me, because it would depend on, like, the rhythm of the dialogue also. And yeah, I don't know, that's a big question. That's hard. But I imagine it would have a very similar route to Breath of the Wild Zelda.
If I can just offer this up.
Hello, I'm Princess Zelda.
This is one choice you could go with.
Link, find me.
Or maybe that's what young Princess Zelda would have been like.
Mommy, where is you? It's been 6
months and 9 days. No. This is why I'm never be invited to these things.
I'm gonna cry. That's right.
Now you're crying. Yes.
God.
Stop ruining Zelda.
All right, we have another good question right here.
Hi, I've been a huge avid fan of video games, especially the Zelda series. I've basically been a huge fan of Ocarina of Time ever since a kid. And I am definitely doing a lot of acting. I've done mostly musical theater, but I've also been told a lot that I could do voice acting. So my question for you guys is, what is your advice for someone who wants to be in the voice acting business, especially like early on when they're still just trying to figure things out?
That's a great, wonderful question. The fact that you're here asking that already is step number one. The fact that you're in musical theater and studying acting and physical acting and music at the same time is a huge plus and is an asset for voice acting for sure. I kind of feel like you're heading in the right direction. One thing that I feel like I end up repeating a lot when I go to places now is that voice acting is acting, is acting is acting. So really, it does come down to acting. And a lot of casting directors will reiterate these days, they'll say, it's not what you think it's supposed to sound like, it's what you can bring to it and your storytelling abilities through you. So as much as you think you're not achieving or what you're looking for is supposed to sound like something else, it's good to practice those things technically, but you're always going to be doing your best work when you're connected to the material. And there's just a really big difference of when you're connected to the material or you're trying to sound like something and you're analyzing it from the outside. So follow your instincts there and follow the research that you do. How do you say, like, that's a complex thing to say, but truly acting training is number one, the best thing that you can do. And it will extend and be applied to all kinds of voice acting. So, yeah.
Or anything.
Or anything.
Like, honestly, just like the idea that if you really feel like that's where you want to go, you are going to find a way to get there. I could tell you which book to read, what line to stand in, for something, but it's just never going to work unless you're doing it the way that you think is the way that works for you, because that will be the thing that you bring. Everybody here who's here for in representing voice actors has a different story on how they got started or why or that kind of thing, and very eclectic backgrounds and all that. So it's like you're just going to find a way. When you think about it, anything in life worth doing that you deem worth doing, you will find a way. If you're passionate about it, like people learn how to fly planes or run marathons or do all sorts of different things in life, it's because they share a passion for it or they They just want to find the way to make it happen. And it's like, there's little bits of advice, but everything you're doing is what you should be doing. Pursue it. Take acting. Take all this stuff. Like I said, all the little things that have like fed into getting us where we're at is like, it was not as if I was like, 11 years old and going, oh, I want to be in musical theater because I want to be Sonic the Hedgehog someday. It was not on my radar at all. And the fact that, that Patricia doing, twizzles and all that kind of stuff, still problematic behind the voiceover microphone still, but, but again, that stuff and knowing music and rhythm, and what you'll hear in a lot of voice actors or acting in general is things like backgrounds in music and dance and movement and rhythm and that kind of thing to understand pacing and beats.
Or
and all
military or like any sort of life
Without
experience thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Drafts.
Break a leg.
Think in drafts.
Break a vocal cord.
It's all like, you start one place. There's never a finished project. You're always learning with each project that you do, and it's cumulative. So don't think that there's one be-all, end-all. It's all drafts. And even the things that feel really big when you're accomplishing them, on to the next project after that. Give yourself a pat on the back on the way, though. Please give yourself lots of pats on the back.
And definitely suck at stand-up comedy. That's the one bit of advice I could give you for voice acting.
And eat Twizzlers. For energy, don't.
Yes.
These were great questions, audience. You guys did a great job. We're almost out of time, but we do have one other order of business here, something extremely important. Does anybody know the significance of today? Do you know what today is? I heard it. It's Sonic's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Sonic the Hedgehog's birthday. So
everybody single file line with all of your gifts. No pushing, no shoving.
On the count of three, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to
you. I'm not him. Happy birthday to you.
Neither
am I. Happy birthday, dear Sonic. Happy birthday to you.
There we go. Happy birthday, Sonic. I'm not him, right? Like, it's not like, okay.
They paid me to do that.
Okay.
Not enough, but they paid, no.
Well done.
No, this is great. So in the last couple minutes here, we just wanted to put it out to you guys. If you have anything else you want to plug, any current projects you're doing, anything you want to get us hyped about, any kind of teasers about secret projects that we need to know about,
Oh, yeah.
Throw us a
All that.
bone.
Violate every NDA.
NDA and NDA. I just released an album with my band. Super fun. I'll plug that.
Where do we find that?
SummersetBand.com. You can go there. And I also have a couple vinyls at my table. We got like 3 or something. I don't like if people like vinyls. That's pretty much it. It's great art folk music. You can find it online and stream it on all the places if you're into that sort of thing. Folk.
The art folk got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
That was the most aggressive response to art folk that I think that has ever happened. It's like,
wow, what a set of pipes. Can you be in my band? Is that
art folk? I have an art folk album that I'm releasing in a week. Yeah, there you go. Oh my gosh, it's getting frightening. No, the worst part about our jobs is that we can never talk about anything that we're already working on that's going to be coming out or may or not be coming out. That's why it's frightening when somebody says, "Are you excited for?" and then you find out that you just confirmed the rumors of a certain game or whatever. No, I guess follow me on social media, and that's where you'll find out. Or they'll, like me, fans were coming up to me going, "Happy birthday!" I'm like, "Not my birthday." They're like, "It's Sonic's birthday," and I was like, "Oh, you'd think I'd know that." I was like, I better quickly pull out my phone and go, "Oh, happy birthday, Sonic," on Twitter. No, that's where we announce a lot of the stuff that we got coming out. But yeah, it's the worst thing. It's like, Apex Legends still going strong. There's more stuff on the way for Frontiers that they've announced, DLC and things like that coming out. So yeah, and I'm excited. There's been more eyeballs on the Sonic franchise than ever, I think, at this point with, my gosh, Sonic Prime, Devin's doing a great job, Ben doing a great job with the cinematic universe. I'm doing a really good job with the video games. And so, yeah, so we got more stuff on the way. You're like, yeah, art folk. Literally, if you did that at an art folk concert, they would ask you to leave. They'd be like, no, that's way too loud here.
Folk this. Yeah.
Folk this.
Guys, this was fun. We really, really appreciate all the time. Yes. Both of you are legends. This was really, really educational. I learned what twizzling was. And
there you go.
I had no idea that was going to become a twizzling TED Talk, but I'm so glad now that it did. So thank you for that. Both of you have been great, very gracious. Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Roger
Do whatever.
You know
Doesn't
what?
matter.
Roger
Robert
Craig
Spigwood.
Smith.
I couldn't get it.
And Patricia Summersett, everybody.
And Patricia Summersett. Give it up for these guys. Thank you.
I'm like,